Horizon Forbidden West is in many ways the true sequel of Zero Dawn. Gameplay is expanded in every direction. We pick up the story not too long after where we left off, and there are even more new machines than I could have hoped for. It's visually stunning, respectful of its predecessor, and generously packed with content. And it also goes totally off the rails at one point, but I'll get to that later. The world of the Wild West is unbelievable. The amount of variety seen in all the different biomes is incredible. I mean, we have like 4 or 5 different kinds of forest alone. From lush, beautiful green fields to huge desert ranges reminiscent of the first game and more goddamn snowy areas for some reason. A lot of the marketing focus was on the more tropical element, however, and while I appreciate the shit out of all these many distinct flavors, I still wanted a bit more of that one. Still, the entire game world is a sight to behold, and overall might be the best representation since The Last of Us Part 2 of how good PS4 graphics can look. I had 3 moments of genuine awe, one of which was related to an override acquired fairly late in the game, so I can't show you that because spoilers. Another is related to a main quest that takes place in the desert ruins of Las Vegas, but it'd be a spoiler to show you that too. The one I can show you is this. The first time I saw Plainsong, I gasped. Tree people, I believe were my exact words. The first glimpse I caught was at night, and all those lights seemingly sewn together out of all the vines and plants. I immediately lost my mind at the promise of it all. This was taken to a whole new level of sci-fi apocalypse genius when I saw it during the day and realized the entire city is just built on a series of satellite dishes. There will be more towns like this one, I thought, and crushingly there are not. Sure, you see other repurposed ruins from our world, but never blended with organic infrastructure to the degree we see here. It's a shame. Despite how unreasonably large the map is, most everything feels detailed and purposeful. They once again go for a slightly fantastic, but also hyper-realistic, almost surreal kind of look, and it's absolutely astonishing. The world we traverse, while deserving of much more praise, isn't the only thing that's improved. In fact, the way we get around might be the thing that's received the biggest upgrade of all. The Breath of the Wild paraglider makes a huge difference in increasing both the pace at which I descend this mountain, but also the fun I have in doing so. The grappling hook, or pullcaster, as nobody is ever going to remember it, was also a lot of fun on the very many occasions it worked. And on the rare few it didn't, I wanted to twist my controller in half. Climbing, as I've said elsewhere, has been worked on a lot, and fans of Zero Dawn will confirm it really needed that. Still needs it, in fact. There are many more available handholds out in the world, and Aloy will go to whichever one she chooses. You're just there for the ride. Good luck. Speaking of sweet new movement stuff, swimming is finally a viable, if slightly terrifying, way to cross bodies of water. On the surface, it was impossible for me to shake the feeling there was a snap maw under me, so I spent most of my time in the depths, drowning. Eventually you get the Star Wars rebreather so you can explore further, longer, and without the anxiety of holding your breath in real life out of sympathy. Underwater controls in third-person action games usually suck, but I thought it was more than acceptable here. A lot of the game feels that way, actually. Maybe not exceptional in too many areas, but more than acceptable in almost all. Even some things I didn't wholly 100% fall in love with were still super impressive in the context of a giant robot fighting game. Namely the giant robot fighting. We have an entire array of new weapon types, my favorite being the spear thrower thingy with the drill variation. I kept that guy forever. All of them appear to have some utility, and other players seem to have found a good use for them, but I didn't. I didn't play this one like I did the first game with Ropecaster and Tactics. Oh no, I played this shit like Pokemon. I have no idea what's going on, but I know I have type coverage and I'm here to attack. I still enjoy picking machines apart, the way the focus targets weak points, and that I can prioritize an enemy's weapon, their armor, or a more sensitive, explosive sack of fluid. I wish the animations were a bit more realistic and larger machines had more of a sense of gravity. The bigger ones move in a way that looks downright silly, and I don't even want to think about Clamberjaws doing backflips for no reason as though they weigh less than nothing. I'm still impressed overall with how they managed to capture the look of all these different creatures and how they move. I just wanted more of a sense of scale and weight. Human enemies are somewhat more and less fun to deal with. Again, in terms of weapons and upgrades, skills, we have a very generous set of options, but not really. In Metal Gear Solid 5, if you keep headshotting everyone, the enemies get helmets. If you always infiltrate at night, they start wearing night vision goggles, etc. Well, I guess the enemies in this game know I headshot everyone in Zero Dawn because they all have very durable face protection. Melee pits could use a lot more time and a lot more clear direction, but fighting my way through most of the enemies in this game was still a lot of fun. For the most part. I found some things to be really challenging in a fun way and some things to be just downright aggravating. There are also hunting grounds, machine races, side missions, side missions, collectibles, puzzle areas that suck, places to swim, places to listen to pilots die, and viewpoints. All of which originally appear as question marks to clutter your already very busy map. And I went to every single one over the course of my 80 hours. I'm exhausted. Nothing feels very samey. There's a wonderful attention to detail here, but there's still so much to do, and while a lot of it was original and compelling, it ground me into dust after a while. Thankfully, you can walk away from the checklist of the open world at any time and dive into a very interesting story full of actual plot twists I never could have presupposed. This is the first time in a long time I've been so surprised by a story, by the twists they pull off, by the actual content of what happens, and partially just how wacky it all was. They made bold decisions, gang, and I sorta love it. It's really hard to get into while staying spoiler free, so I won't talk too much about it, but I felt simultaneously very pandered to as a huge fan of the first game, and like my expectations were constantly being subverted, in good and bad ways. There are huge moments where I felt joy and victory based solely on hopes and wants I had for Aloy and her world in the adventures of Zero Dawn. The fact we in the main story go back and address those specific loose ends I thought no one else cared about was immensely satisfying. I might not love where all of it ends up, but I will never not applaud this level of chance-taking. Guerilla goes out on a limb here, and I don't know if they make the leap or not, but bravo for the effort. Not everything feels unfamiliar. In fact, they do enough with older characters that it sort of recontextualized their place in the first game for me and retroactively made them more important. I love how much of the world we explore with Varl, for example, and how often Aloy has companions in general. Fighting with friends was fun, and seeing everyone they do bring back, especially during the opening in Meridian, felt like going home after a long trip away. Dialogue in these interactions is much less awkward, and the camera finally figured out where it wants to be. It isn't perfect, but it's a huge step in the right direction. Now people finally do have facial expressions that seem slightly more human, but we talk to everyone like they're Aloy's ex for some reason. It's very strange. I had a lot of problems with a lot of things in this game. Story direction and lack of payoff, the way it closes certain threads left open from the first game, but I also dearly loved a lot of this experience. I still recommend it if you enjoyed the first game even a little. I put over 80 hours in it, and I don't regret most of it. Only reason I didn't get the platinum is because I started getting the deep open world fatigue, but I think that could be avoided if you just don't rush through it. Take your time, enjoy the world, and explore at your own pace. This is a very solid game overall. Before I played Elden Ring, it would have been my game of the year. It also frustrates me more than any game I've played in a long time, and that's not just because of the story or how much I hate Aloy needing to dodge roll constantly. The open world feels a bit bloated. I didn't need all these rebel camps, even though I did them all. I didn't need all those vista points, even though I did them all. And I didn't need to explore every hidden treasure because it was always just more green shine. And I wanted it to be a sword just one time. Give me a sword. Everybody has swords in this game now. I can even take one and kill a dude with it. Just let me keep that sword. Bottom line, amazing game. I love this series. I'm very interested and scared to see what they do with the next one. And I humbly request a sword.